For centuries, knowledge has been hidden in plain sight across the sands of time. Whispers of lost civilizations, cryptic symbols, and forbidden histories have been erased or concealed. What if the truth was never lost, but hidden? Welcome to Eye of Ancient Mysteries, where the past speaks and the future listens. Sit back, open your mind, and prepare to uncover the untold secrets of our world. Let the journey begin now. Did the Thracians sleep with gods and angels? Orpheus went to the underworld to say goodbye to Eurydice. Not to rescue her did our ancient ancestors encounter divine, angelic, or other supernatural, perhaps even extraterrestrial, patrons. Across many mythologies, including the Thracian, we find recurring motifs of hierogamy, the sacred union between a human and a deity. What truths might be hidden behind these ancient stories? Researcher Hristo Bukovsky, who has long sought encoded messages in history, mythology, religion, and esotericism, explores this very topic in his latest book, The Descent of the Archangels, published by Sela. The book examines the historical circumstances that led to the sacred marriage hierogamy becoming a ritual of initiation among the Thracians. What lies behind this symbolic marriage between the priest-king and the mother goddess? Was it truly symbolic or perhaps literal? Bukovsky investigates ancient texts and archaeological sites in Bulgaria and throughout Europe to uncover answers. He revisits many historical and mythological narratives tied to our land and our ancestors. One such story is that of the Thracian courtesan Rhodopis, a legendary hetera who may have inspired the Cinderella tale. Like Cinderella, she lost a shoe, which was found by an Egyptian pharaoh, who then sought out its owner. Bukovsky paints a deep picture of both ancient and modern beliefs, tracing the sources of stories about encounters with divine and god-like beings. These encounters often take on an erotic dimension, whether it's a maiden kidnapped by a dragon, Zeme, angels who took human wives, or Zeus's infamous escapades. In The Descent of the Archangels, Bukovsky offers new interpretations of the tale of Orpheus and Eurydice, the mysteries of Samothrace, the divine marriage of Thracian king Cotys I and the goddess Athena, the apocryphal myths of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, and the legacy of the goddess Cybele in modern iconography, even within Christianity. He also delves into the secrets possibly hidden in prehistoric art, which often centers on the mother goddess and the profound importance of ritual cave wombs. Sacred caves found throughout the region, repurposed as sanctuaries since prehistory. Visual depictions of sacred marriage preserved on ancient artifacts. Pottery and even gold treasures are also considered. The Descent of the Archangels is a journey through time and imagination, a book that both reminds us of known facts and unveils fresh interpretations as Bukovsky continues his lifelong search for hidden knowledge. Here is an excerpt from the section on the mystery of Orpheus and Eurydice. The ancient geographer Strabo described Orpheus as a magician who practiced music and prophecy and conducted orgiastic ceremonies during consecrations. Through these, he gradually won many followers and influence. The ancient author Conan adds that he was especially beloved by the people due to his connection with the god Dionysus. No, Orpheus was not fond of achieving sacred ecstasy through drunkenness and the frenzied rites of the Bacchae. Instead, with the noble Thracians of his circle, he returned to more authentic worship practices, replacing bull meat with ritual bread, wine with Sabazios's malt, and hop beer, and sending the unruly dancers home to care for their children and households. Did he know more than his grandfather's mentor, Charops? Was it mere coincidence that during the Argonauts' journey to Colchis, Orpheus received guidance from the sacred timber Athena had gifted the shipwrights to place in the prow of the Argo? Perhaps it wasn't just decoration. Maybe this divine wood conveyed knowledge. Is it subtly hinted at so only the initiated would notice? Athena is a special goddess, born neither of a heavenly mother nor of an earthly woman. She burst from the head of Zeus, fully armed. What does this signify? Is she an allegory for embodied thought? In his doctoral thesis, Chavdar Bonev traced her name to the ancient word Atta, meaning father, with the suffix implying off the father. Could this point to a connection with the supreme god, since mythologically she comes from the one who presides over the divine hierarchy? Centuries later, the Bulgarian esoteric tradition, the Bogomils, would explain the appearance of Jesus as the word Logos, which, by divine will, enters the Virgin Mary through her ear and emerges into the world in human form. So how does thought emit energy capable of producing such a profound materialization? Athena, the great goddess, represents wisdom and reason, the arts and sciences, crafts and skills, all things our world later came to possess. Perhaps her emergence marked a moment when the gods, those descended beings, decided to impart further specialized knowledge and technologies to humanity. People are like mold. They multiply everywhere and fight over anything, even if all they know is how to chip ceramic flakes into knives and spear tips. Clearly, someone had to provoke a qualitative leap in civilization by forcefully imposing new models, values, and technologies. This would also explain the scarce reports about some of the strange occurrences that accompanied the Argonauts, who at one point found themselves in the middle of the Milky Way. Wherever this may have happened, whatever might have resulted from it, Orpheus was clearly affirmed as a true son of earth and the starry sky, as inscribed on a golden Orphic tablet that remained hidden for millennia in an ancient tomb. After countless ascents up the sacred rock from the cave of self-knowledge, through the chiseled steps leading to the priestly platform at the summit for encounters with the rising sun, the time of the sacred marriage also came for him, as the son of the deified heir Oeagrus and the divine muse Calliope. His worthy bride appeared in the form of the enchanting Eurydice. She was so delicate and seemed so ethereally insubstantial that she was celebrated as a nymph. It hasn't been confirmed whether, like a woodland spirit, she rode a deer and wore a quiver of arrows on the belt that cinched her tunic, but her aura unquestionably aligned with the meaning of her name. she of broad power. But on the day of their magical union came an even greater trial, one that would henceforth become inescapable for the most elevated among the initiates. One might spontaneously think that Dionysus wished to take the charming bride for himself, as he had done with Ariadne, and so sent one of his favorite snakes to venomously bite her heel. However, it's also possible that he killed Orpheus's bride merely to test how deeply the ambitious youth had penetrated the knowledge of the paths to the underworld to challenge his ability to endure such a trial. Yes, once Eurydice had descended into non-being Orpheus, as the hereditary high priest of Dionysus descended into the underworld to retrieve her. Although he had no formal right to do so, he managed to sway even the stern gods of the disembodied shadows to release her. Mythmakers assigned him mournful songs that supposedly softened the hardened hearts of the underworld's rulers, allowing him into depths forbidden to the living. But the bereaved groom was in no mood for melodies, and the gods of that dimension knew him well. The Athenian painter Polygnotus, clearly recognizing Orpheus's deeper knowledge and reckless audacity toward mythic secrets, always depicted him closest to the thrones of Hades and Persephone on surviving antique vases from the first half of the 5th century BCE. However divine it might be to forgive such gods, that closeness likely didn't originate from them stealing his bride. But knowing that his ties with the chthonic hosts were old and evidently strong doesn't make our task any easier. On the contrary, the condition set by Hades and Persephone sounds even more peculiar, that he must lead his beloved out without looking at her until they reach the light. With their divine presumption, they perhaps knew something about her case that he was not supposed to understand. Such a warning could easily slip us into the domain of storytellers fermenting ancient bestsellers with human tears. It's not hard to enchant the uninitiated with the tragic scene of separation, supposedly caused by the groom's impetuous mistake. Thus the myth, with its countless retellings, paintings, and reliefs, has been carefully staged to show Orpheus failing precisely at the finish line. Yet a symbolic clue has reached us, suggesting he may have had another knowledgeable mentor in the passages to Hades. It's even possible that Hermes, the guide of souls to the afterlife, was an accomplice to the newlyweds. On a relief from the 5th century BCE in Rome's Villa Albani, Eurydice is sculpted standing rather amicably between the two. Were countless Roman copies of this original later made just to decorate bathhouses, temples, theaters, and vases? At first glance, it may seem like there's no special hidden meaning. But if no one has seen it yet, does that mean it's not there? What if Orpheus's turning back was simply a farewell? Yes, it's sad, very much like the parting of lovers deeply in love. Moreover, they were ritually bound at the highest esoteric level in the sacred marriage. But what proves that the beautiful one was ever truly returned? Who's misleading us into forgetting that she's more likely an earthly manifestation than a local maiden? For her, It would have been easier to leap upon her deer from the exit point than to retreat back into Hades. She was awaited in the divine expanses. But Orpheus remained, by a vow perhaps made during his celestial detour with the Argonauts. He was the one chosen to establish Orphism as a worldview for the initiated. Sent, called, or inspired, he was meant to raise it as a great teaching above Dionysian drunken feasts and the ecstatic bacchantes. He was wise enough to foresee that the burden of earthly limitations, both spatial and temporal, could not be overcome by forgetting, but by insight. The paths Orpheus could have led the Thracians down were beyond the strength of spiritually stumbling people. He led only the chosen ones. They did not consume the flesh of dead beings, but instead took in plant-based food along with honey, milk, and cheese, in exchange for the right to be initiated into the secret knowledge. They vowed not to speak of the hidden rites. That is why Diodorus, failing to learn the details, excused himself by stating, "The mysteries in Thrace among the Cicones, from whom Orpheus himself came, are passed on in secret." Many believe the secrets were preserved because the rituals of the Magoi were accessible only to men. Trust was earned only by those who knew no greater temptation than the pursuit of supreme knowledge, as they did not live the normal lives of ordinary people. They were called by the unliving. This was only half true in the sense that their spiritual eyes looked far ahead, into a time when life would no longer dictate their behavior. Once they laid down their masculine weapons and bathed in the sacred spring, they crossed the sacred river in front of the sanctuary and entered the rocky womb to meet beyond the world of daily concerns and worldly vanity the celestial within their genes. Then they ascended reborn along the carved steps in the sacred rock to the stone basin. There, through the heavenly water of rains gathered within it, sanctified by the sun, the moon, the stars, and the winds above, they received the strength and insight of the initiated. Thus, they attained the signs of their ritual bond with the divine and accepted to live as celestial consuls. No longer would they allow themselves to be possessed by gods like Zeus and his Olympian company, but by the God within themselves. In him they trusted to guide them toward energetic immortality, encompassing both body and soul. Dionysus didn't need to explain to the bacchantes how far human potential could reach. Once Orpheus was already initiating the chosen Mystai into the mysteries of interdimensional transitions. It was enough for him to tell them that men had usurped their role as the most fervent and passionately desired priestesses. Under his skillfully incited rage, they stormed toward the Orphic sanctuary and seized the spears that the initiates had left, along with all their weapons, by the ritual spring. Then they descended upon the Mystai, lost in magical ecstasy, and, with the frenzy used to strike the sacred victim for their god, they killed and tore apart the most wondrous enchanter of all time. And yet, over the 35 centuries since, the title the radiantly renowned remains reserved for him alone. Only for him!